Let's have a chat to Nick Freeman, Mr. Loophole, who joins me now. Good morning, Nick.
Good morning, Caroline.
So we've just heard from James Dawn. I know you heard him there. And from smaller retailers who can't open their shops. They're thinking that this is a pretty unfair situation, and I kind of get it. Do you?
No, they're completely right. I mean, look, this run-up to Christmas is the most important time for retailers. The sort of 6 weeks before Christmas is when they make their money. And James said quite clearly, he actually trades Waterstones, trades at a loss and recaptures that loss and makes the profit in the last 6 weeks. And that situation applies to many, many retailers. And what's happened is the government have complicated what should have been a very simple situation. And Wales have got it right. What should be on sale is simply essential items. Any non-essential items are not for sale. Doesn't matter where you are, who you are. But if you're going to a retailer, you cannot buy a non-essential item, only essential. And then we don't have the problem at all, do we? We don't have any profiteering because we have a guideline at the moment that says that a business that's selling a significant amount of essential retail may also continue to sell non-essential goods. And that is the green light to enable these supermarkets, as long as it's on the same floor, in the same sort of vicinity, to sell all the sorts of Christmas decorations, et cetera, that the smaller independent retailer needs to sell to survive, along with toys and all the other sorts of things that the small retailer is actually now closed and can't take their share of the business. So it's a real mess. I mean, they are being compensated by grants up to £3,000 a month, but that doesn't. It's a very small measure to the total amount of loss that they're going to face. And the very fact that, the furlough scheme's in until the end of March, well, all that does is it pays a significant contribution to wages. But it doesn't cater for any of the other expenses that a business has. And running a business is not just about paying wages. There's a whole host of other expenses. And you need to sell to make money, to cover your expenses, and ideally make some profit. And, of course, we've already had a significant period of time this year where businesses have been closed. So, will these small retailers ever recover? Well, sadly, I think many will fall by the wayside. And it's the larger supermarkets that are, in fact, going to continue and survive and make more money. And the government needs to introduce, in my view, the government should introduce emergency legislation today to say only essential goods can be sold, and that's it. And there needs to be heavy fines to prevent any non-essential goods. And at least that will salvage something so that hopefully when lockdown finishes on the 3rd of December, that there is a period of time for everyone to get stuck in and try and sell what they can, rather than that all those sales having already been made.
Can you judge these shops, though, for selling stuff that we don't actually need? I mean, I was in a shop at the weekend and you've got people in their trolleys. There's a bottle of bleach and some toilet rolls, plus loads of Christmas decorations, loads of makeup, loads of other things that they don't actually need, but they can get. Can you criticise these shopkeepers for selling this stuff and making money while they can, while all year round they've probably worked at a loss?
Well, I wouldn't see it to criticise them if they're operating within the law.
Yeah.
And if they are, in essence, selling essential items, they are perfectly entitled, provided they preserve all the measures, to sell certain non-essential items. So that's why I'm saying it's very clumsy legislation, it's very clumsy guidance, and it's creating this very uneven and unfair playing field, which is going to cost businesses their continued existence. So I think the government are just relying on the goodwill of retailers, and they've not thought about it. I don't know whether they really understand how business operates. I mean, the Department for Business, Energy and Industrial Strategy said that these restrictions are obviously necessary to slow down the spread of COVID-19. Statistics show, actually, that when you're conducting retail, when you're shopping, provided the measures are in place, the spread is absolutely minuscule.
Yeah.
So, I have every sympathy with these retailers questioning, why are we being forced to close? It's just wrong. And then you have click and collect, and you have these massive queues, as you've indicated, at Ashton-under-Lyne and Greater Manchester, where people are in close proximity in any event. They might be wearing masks, they might be outside. But, if people are trusted to be sensible, and the statistics show, research shows that actually you're very likely to increase the R rate by retail shopping. why is it costing the economy so much? Why aren't we adopting a more robust approach? Or if we are going to adopt a robust approach, why don't we do what Wales has done and say just essential items? Let's make up. There isn't a middle ground here. It's one or the other.
And we've also, as we've heard during the course of the show and with Daz on the Breakfast Show, that you've got the non-essential shops buying in essential goods, which means that they can then open, closed shops selling dog food and so on and so forth. So people are kind of like finding ways to bend those rules, aren't they?
Yeah, I'm not sure that those actually will succeed. They're doing that. I think they need to be very careful. There are massive fines at stake if you breach the regulations, and there will undoubtedly be prosecutions. If the very essence of a business is non-essential, you're not going to circumnavigate that by buying in some dog food or other essential items, unless you buy in such bulk that in fact, you change the nature of your business. If you're going to change the nature of your business, the guideline is if you sell significant amount of essential retail, then you can sell non-essential. But if your business in essence is non-essential, you're going to land yourself in hot water by starting to sell essential stuff and saying, well, I can also sell non-essential. It doesn't work that way. In my view, you're breaking the law.
Now, in the run-up to Christmas, I guess we don't know what's coming. We don't know if, we're told that this lockdown is going to end on December the 3rd, but nobody knows that for sure. So you've got people out kind of like scurrying around trying to get bits. I've seen it with my own eyes, trying to kind of like get Christmas stuff now just in case the situation gets worse. But what do you think will happen if the Prime Minister extends the current lockdown and all these shops are told to stay closed past December the 3rd?
I don't think he's going to say that. I think he's made it very clear that lockdown will not be extended after the 3rd of December, certainly until Christmas. After Christmas, I think there's a possibility it will be reintroduced, maybe with slightly different measures, I don't know. But I think he's made it quite clear that lockdown will be open, business will be as usual. Not as usual as it is under COVID-19 precautions after the 3rd of December. If it's continued, the cost to the economy and the cost in every other respect, I think, will be too great for the country to bear. And I just don't think the Prime Minister is willing to take that chance.
I wonder if there'll be any difference on Boxing Day. I mean, if you've ever taken part in those Boxing Day sales, Nick, the queues.
I haven't.
The queues are horrendous and everybody's kind of like scrummed together trying to get hold of a load of bargains. But I guess that through all of that, they get rid of a lot of stock that they no longer need and they make a lot of money.
Well, the retailers are having it really tough. They're not sitting on a big gravy train. They are really, really struggling. The country as a whole needs to look at the high street, and we see it. It's happening under our watch. Shops are closing down on a daily basis, and they're being replaced with charity shops, restaurants, estate agents. They're now struggling. So, retail plays a massive part in the economy, in terms of supporting it and in our sort of social situation. So the government needs to ensure that the high street remains with small retail outlets as well as these large supermarkets on industrial sites, because it's an essential fabric of our community, and it will be very sad if the high street changes and those shops no longer exist. And I think the public will actually want to support the small retailer, when this is over, because they will realise that the supermarkets have had it their own way, and it's important. People value the small retailer, they value their local shop, and they're going to support them and try and keep them going. And I think that's what will happen.
Let's hope so. And let's also not forget that if we go back into the tier system on the 3rd of December, there will still be parts of the country where some shops will have to remain closed.
There will, and I'm sure the Prime Minister's aware of that. I mean, look, by the 3rd of December, the figures must have significantly fallen, and the outlook must be reasonably optimistic in the short term. And so for those 3 weeks or so leading up to Christmas, there's going to be a semblance of normality. It isn't going to be normal. The signs are clear. We're not going to have a normal Christmas. And he's going to just have to try and balance, as he's doing, keeping the economy afloat and keeping people's family life alive, how that happens. But because we've got Brexit around the corner as well, and we're not quite sure what's happening with that. So we're sitting on a tightrope at the moment. I'm not sure which way we're going to fall. And it's the government's problem. Then they need to make the right calls, because if we fall the wrong way, people will talk about it when they vote next time. It's a perilous situation that we're currently facing.
Nick, I thank you very much for your time. That's Nick Freeman, Mr. Loophole, joining us there on BBC Radio WM.